jump in those 9 iron, boys.
I'd like to thank Watson for that kind introduction. President-elect Bradley King, officers of the Rotary of Nassau, West Nassau, and Rotarians like the Nassau. I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about hurricanes in general, and I'll try to talk about what they are, how and where they form, some of the hazards associated with tropical cyclones, and of course, most importantly, how do we track them, and how can we, what the things we can do in order to survive these forces of nature. Tropical cyclones is exactly what it is. It's a low-pressure system that forms in the tropical waters of the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean Sea. And that generally takes place between the 1st of June and the 30th of November. Now, that is the official season. However, you can have tropical cyclones forming outside of those boundaries. Nevertheless, the season begins on the 1st of June and ends on the 30th of November. Now, each year between the 1st of June, and you would notice that the tropical cyclone season also coincides with summer months, starting from June. So each year, you have the sun which spends most of its time in the equatorial region, that is between 23.5 degrees north, 23.5 degrees south. And because of that, it heats up that tropical belt. And the highlands of Africa, and particularly West Africa, receive a lot of this heat energy throughout the year. Sorry about that. Right, nevertheless, to get right back to what we were talking about. We're talking about how these things generate. Because of the differential heating of the highlands of East Africa during the summer months, we have what is called heat trembles developing over the land. And these heat trembles get caught up in the westerly flow, or the trade wind flow, which blows from east to west. And this is primarily one of the reasons why you find tropical cyclones travel from east to west. Also in the Atlantic is what we have a high pressure system, which we refer to as the Bermuda Azores High. This is a quasi-permanent system that sits there in the Atlantic, and it moves east and west during the course of the year. Now the flow around the high pressure is clockwise. Hence, again, you have the wind blowing clockwise, and that is your primary reason for these tropical cyclones. The ones forming over Africa, moving from east to west. As these perturbations continues to move over the warm waters of the Atlantic, they feed off the warm waters of the Atlantic, and hence you have water being evaporated from there, and as it rises, it cools. You may not know, but temperature decreases with height. Because temperature decreases with height, as warm air rises, it then cools gradually. And that cooling process continues until condensation takes place. Once condensation takes place, we have water droplets forming. And this is the same process for cloud development, by the way. So the same way in which tropical cyclones form, clouds form on a micro scale. So as these water droplets form, they continue moving around in the free atmosphere because of those tremble currents. And these water droplets, they bind against each other, they collide with each other. And at some point, some of them coalesce or stick together. And as they coalesce, you end up with cloud formation taking place. And within that cloud, that process does not stop there. So within the cloud now, you have these same water droplets continuing to bounce around within the cloud structure. And as those water droplets bounce around, coalescing continues to take place. And when those droplets become too large to be supported by the free atmosphere, they fall out of the cloud as what we call precipitation. And precipitation can come in several different forms. Showers. Showers are any liquid precipitation which lasts for up to 45 minutes. Anything in excess of 45 minutes is as rain. But there are different types of clouds and they form by different names. But we will not dwell too much on cloud formation, but just to give you some idea that the same processes that takes place in cloud formation is the same process that takes place in the formation of tropical cyclones. How do we interact? 50 years ago, we did not have the aid of sunlight. So as a result, we really knew that a tropical cyclone was coming and it was primarily on your doorstep. But today, we have satellite images, those east satellites, we have polar orbiting satellites, and a number of other satellites from various different nations around the world. And we're able to tap into these satellite systems and get a snapshot of what is happening around the globe. So we're now able to see from the coast of Africa when a system is developing, and we're able to follow that system from its point of development until it either passes or moves away from us. So satellite imagery has really been a great improvement to forecasting in the last 30 years or so. So our first piece of food that we use is the satellite. So once we realize that we have something out there, we then grab data from around the world, because all observing stations throughout the world collect data simultaneously. So every hour, 10 minutes of the hour, an observation is made throughout the globe. And those information is then sent to a data bank. In our case, our data bank goes to Washington, D.C., where all of this data is received and then redistributed to all weather stations throughout the world. So we all have access to data from any station throughout the world. This data, again, in the past we used to plot that on a surface map, analyze that map in order to figure out where our weather systems are, that is the high pressure, low pressure, strong frontal systems, cyclones, and the like. Today, we're again a little bit more fortunate in that we could move into the area of numerical weather predictions, where this data is then taken and fed into various different weather models that the models will then ingest that information, process it for us, and then spits out several different scenarios. And what we tend to do as meteorologists is we go through all these various weather models and we try to find out which one of those models fits our weather planning best. And once you're able to determine that, we then use, that will be our second step. Satellite picture first, so we know exactly where the cloud mass is, so we know something is happening in that particular natural system. We then look at that computer model, which will then simulate that data over various different time steps. You can do it for 3 days, you can do it 7 days out, you can do it 10 days out, you can do it 30 days out. However, the accuracy diminishes as we move forward in time. So for the most part, we try to stay within 7 days. And even in 7 days at times, particularly during the winter months, you find that the computer models work very well during the winter months. Our challenge has been and still is during the summer months, and particularly in the tropical belt. And one of the reasons for that is the network of stations in the tropical region is rather scarce as compared to the continental United States, where you have a very thick network of weather stations. So you're able to fine-tune those models a lot better because you don't have those large gaps that we would have. For example, here in the Bahamas, we have about 17 observation platforms scattered throughout the 700 islands of the Bahamas. In the United States, you have thousands of weather observing platforms. And then you would get a break between the Bahamas, and you get a missing gap between Cuba and Hispaniola. So all of that is missing data. But to try to fill those gaps, countries like the United States have deployed weather buoys throughout the Atlantic and some parts of the Caribbean Sea. But again, it's very, very costly to operate these weather buoys, and hence still limiting us to the amount of weather data that we can receive over the vast ocean area. Another thing we try to do is to make use of the cruise ships that traverse the Atlantic Ocean. On board those cruise ships, they also have weather stations, and they would report those information back to the Washington Center. And in that way, we're able to get some data from over the vast areas of the Atlantic. But over the years, we have tweaked those weather models sufficiently that we have changed the warning system a bit. In previous years, well, up to last year, a watch, a tropical cyclone watch was issued 36 hours out. Today, we now increase that watch time to 48 hours because of the confidence we now have in the weather model. The warnings used to go out at 24 hours out. We now issue the warnings at 36 hours out. So you get a greater lead time now in order to take care of the preparatory work that is needed prior to the arrival of the tropical cyclone. In addition to the computer modeling, we also have the good fortune of having a very strong relationship with the National Weather Service in Miami, Florida. And they have a fleet of aircraft that fly reconnaissance mission once the tropical cyclone reaches within flight range. These aircraft would fly a crisscross pattern in these tropical cyclones, and they deploy what we call drop songs to the belly of those aircraft at strategic points throughout the storm system. Those drop songs then radio back data to the National Hurricane Center, which is then processed and distributed to other centers throughout the Caribbean and North America. And it's the data that we receive from these reconnaissance aircraft that gives us a better understanding of the anatomy of the tropical cyclone and what is really going on in the tropical cyclone, exactly where the strong wind belts are in relation to that particular system. So the reconnaissance aircraft has really been a very, very useful tool in forecasting tropical cyclones. Once the tropical cyclone gets within radar range, and that's what we kick into our Doppler weather radar system. Again, in the Bahamas, we have one Doppler weather radar. There is a need for a second one because the Bahamas covers a very large area. It's perhaps the same size as the Eastern Caribbean, when you really look at it, stretching from Grand Bahama in the north all the way down to Nassau in the south. You're looking at a span of about 500 miles. And the effective radar range is only about 240 to 300 miles. So we're barely covering as far as Crooked Island access. Beyond that, there is a gap where we have no radar coverage. From our standpoint, however, we do piggyback on the Cuban weather systems. They have a number of Doppler weather radars, and particularly on the eastern end of the island, where we're able to capture what is going on in the southeast part of the island. Also, Miami has the radar, Cuba has the radar to the north, and it's good to have these overlapping radar systems because what one does not pick up, the other one will. The other good thing about having this overlapping stuff, the closer you are to the radar, you tend to get a lot of what we call ground clutter. So it's not very effective in detecting exactly what is happening close to the radar station. But the further out you go, you're able to pick up exactly what is happening in your system. So from the standpoint of forecasting tools, we're pretty much covered with the exception of that gap, Crooked Island down to Nassau. What can you